Friends of Formula One, Ferrari holds all the cards heading into the Hungarian Grand Prix, and right now, I'm going to tell you exactly why the prancing horse absolutely must bring home this win. Charles Leclerc said it openly at the Sky Italia microphones, and his words were stunning. "Tomorrow I can win, because I have the car to do it. Mercedes is nowhere near us, and the only team left to beat is McLaren, who in race pace is actually slower than our Ferrari." Qualifying saw Lando Norris snatch pole position by just 12 thousandths of a second. But both SF26 cars will line up right behind the Brit, with Hamilton second and Leclerc third, in what Vassar himself called the best qualifying session of the entire season. But the real difference maker here is race pace, and on that front, Ferrari is simply devastating. The SF26 manages its rear end perfectly, right where McLaren struggles most with balance. Ferrari flies through the third sector, and that is the absolute key to flawless tire management over the long haul. And then there is the bombshell news that has completely blown the Constructors' Championship wide open. George Russell's engine failed in qualifying when he stopped at Turn 1 during Q3 with a suspected water leak, and Toto Wolff confirmed it outright at the Sky Italia microphones. The engine is broken and needs to be replaced. That is enormous news for Ferrari in the fight for second place in the Constructors' standings. And on top of that, Hamilton is facing a potential grid penalty after impeding Piastri in Q3, having been warned too late by his pit wall. If you don't want to miss any updates on Ferrari and Formula One, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. With that said, let's get straight into the detailed analysis. Let's start with the stunning result from Hungarian qualifying. Lando Norris took his first pole of the season by just 12 thousandths over Ferrari, a razor-thin margin that tells you exactly how tight this fight was. On the final runs, lap times actually plateaued for the top cars, and they were slower than their previous attempts, just as Vassar explained, because the asphalt offered slightly less grip in the final part of the session. The two Ferraris will still start from second and third on the grid, which Vassar officially confirmed as the best qualifying performance of the season. The French team principal even made light of the 12 thousandths question, saying with a dry smile, "No, I haven't asked my engineers about it yet, but that's probably going to be the most painful question of the evening." Now here comes the most striking part of Norris' post-qualifying interview. The Brit is anything but relaxed heading into the race, and he openly sounded the alarm about Ferrari. He said, "Clearly we are in the best position possible, but Ferrari always starts races very strongly, and they have been fast all season long. I expect a really difficult race." And then came the sharpest remark of all. They ran Q1 on medium tires today, so it will be interesting to see what compound they start on tomorrow. They could have an advantage at certain stages of the race. That is a very clear expression of concern from the pole sitter himself, because Norris knows perfectly well that McLaren struggles in race pace, especially with rear balance, which is precisely where Ferrari has been delivering textbook management all season long. The real battlefield will be the long race, and Norris is fully aware of that reality. Now here's the most important element of the entire weekend. The SF26 race pace is simply devastating compared to the competition, and that is the true key to taking the victory. Since Friday, Ferrari has shown an incredible competitive rhythm, and Vassar confirmed it openly. "We have a strong pace," and that's actually why we were a little disappointed after qualifying. The rhythm was there from the very beginning of the weekend. The biggest advantage is the impeccable management of the rear end, which is the area everyone feared could be the SF26 weak spot on this track. Instead, it handles its rear with precision, while McLaren genuinely struggles on that specific point. And that will translate into a massive advantage in tire degradation across the full race distance. And here comes the real technical revelation that explains everything. The SF26 is literally flying through the third sector of the Hungaroring, a stretch defined by medium-speed corners where aerodynamic load and traction make all the difference. This is no coincidence. It is the absolute key to perfect tire management over the long distance. Going very fast through the third sector means better throttle application out of the corners, less thermal stress on the rear tires, and keeping the compounds at their optimal temperature throughout the race. The data confirms that Ferrari deliberately sacrifices around 1.5 tenths in two energy recovery zones before turns 11 and 12, with the goal of arriving in the third sector with plenty of energy to deploy low down and maximize corner exit phases. It is a genuine strategic masterpiece. Now the bombshell statement from Charles Leclerc at the Sky Italia microphones. The Monegasque is absolutely convinced about what the SF26 can do in the race, and he said word for word, "Tomorrow I can win because I have the car to do it." Mercedes is very far from us in terms of race pace, and the only team to beat is McLaren, who in race pace is slower than our Ferrari. That is a clear, confident message, very different from the cautious tone of the previous days. Leclerc finished third after a qualifying where all the top drivers struggled to improve their times in the final runs due to the drop in track performance, but the Monegasque has a devastating race pace that will allow him to fight for the win on Sunday. With Hamilton second and Leclerc third, Ferrari is breathing right down McLaren's neck and has every weapon needed to flip the result. Now here is the absolute bombshell that has blown the Constructors' Championship completely back open. George Russell stopped on track at turn 1 in Q3 with a suspected water leak, and the consequences are even more dramatic than they first appeared. Toto Wolff confirmed it openly at the Sky Italia microphones with these exact words: "The engine is broken and needs to be changed." That means a likely grid penalty for the Brit, which he will have to serve at what is effectively a home race for Mercedes. This is massive news for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship fight, because the Maranello squad now heads into a race with Mercedes practically decimated. Antonelli starts very far back after a disastrous Friday involving a rear-wheel lockup, and Russell will likely slide to the back of the grid due to the forced engine change. And unfortunately, there is also bad news on the Ferrari side of the garage. Vasseur has practically confirmed that a penalty is coming for Hamilton over the impeding incident involving Oscar Piastri on the final Q3 run. The Brit failed to get out of the Australian's line and was warned too late by his own team's pit wall, something Vasseur openly admitted. "There is a risk," he said, "because we warned him too late." When Lewis was already at the apex of the corner, there was nothing more we could do. The yellow flag was shown, but the message didn't reach him in time. The penalty would presumably be 3 grid places, which would drop Hamilton to 5th on the grid. But Vasseur does not believe this will fundamentally change Ferrari's race strategy. The strategy for tomorrow doesn't necessarily change, he said. We still start from the front row. And now, the full picture heading into this crucial race eve. Ferrari sits second and third on the grid, with the best race pace in the field, including Norris McLaren, flawless rear management, blistering pace through the third sector that will guarantee optimal tire handling, Mercedes effectively out of contention with Russell needing a new engine, and Antonelli starting well down the order, and Leclerc openly declaring he has the car to win. Every ingredient for a triumph is on the table. In Q1, Ferrari even saved a set of soft tires for the race on Hamilton's car, a hugely significant strategic hint that Vasseur himself confirmed. We certainly didn't do it by accident. We clearly did it with tomorrow's race in mind. The Maranello team played their hand with the long race squarely in sight. And on that front, the SF26 will be absolutely devastating. Ferrari must win this race. Full stop. Look, Ferrari genuinely has every ingredient needed to take a victory that would blow this championship wide open again. This fight is far from over.